God is real, but you can't find him with a telescope. He truly is here to help, but you have to surrender your earthly understanding in order to find him. Finding God is like finding things such as happiness, joy, love, peace, contentment, honesty, fairness, truth, etc. You can't just measure those things with a calculator or a yardstick. You have to use your heart. You have to become spiritual. Sometimes you have to pray or meditate deeply to find or grasp those things. And when you surrender your own will, then you can find God and the important things about him. I didn't create God. That's just how he is. Yeah, God is like love. Neither one of them will force themselves on you. You have to surrender your heart and let them come into your life. Once they are in your life, things become wonderful. But you can lose God the same way you can lose love. If you harden your heart or stop believing, neither can help you anymore. Yet both are always there if you choose to surrender again. Isn't that extraordinary when you think about it? The same goes for joy, peace, etc. It only works when you surrender and believe. So that's why men have been searching for God, but not finding him. Men want to use their minds only. But our minds are very limited. Humans think they are the smartest beings in existence, yet we are the dumbest. For example, look at the greatest technology ever created on this earth. Now, if you think about it, nothing we've ever created really did anything to change the universe, Earth, the weather, the moon, the sun, etc. I mean, we have the internet, cell phones, iPhones, satellite, and all of that, yet we still can't prevent hurricanes, floods, mudslides, or any kind of major disaster. We can only somewhat predict them or come behind and clean up afterwards. And look at all of the medical advances made throughout history, yet people are still dying from diseases that can't even be seen with the naked eye. We can sustain life a little, but nothing is indefinite. So who do we think we are, being so arrogant to think we don't need a God or sustainer? Who do we think is keeping the ocean from overtaking the land? Who do we think is keeping the Earth in orbit? Did you know that we are spinning at almost 1,000 miles an hour and flying through space at over 40,000 miles an hour? And Earth has been doing this for millions of years. Who do you think is responsible for that kind of thing? Do you think nothing decided to put together a plan to create everything you see? Well, if you are that shallow, I will say you are right. Nothing gave us all we see in the universe. So you have identified the Creator as being the great nothing. So step aside. I need to fall on my knees and pray to the great nothing, because nothing is my Creator, and I must honor him for making me and sustaining me. When times were tough, nothing got me through it all. I've been holding on to nothing all these years now. When the slaves in America were beaten and worked until they could no longer stand, they sang songs and praises to nothing. They got their strength from the great nothing, right? Nothing is my God. For thousands of years, people have seen angels that told them prophecy about nothing. Even though religions of the world differ, they all have one thing in common, and that is a superior nothing, right? This has got to be funny to you in some way, I hope. I'm being facetious, but it kind of expresses the stupidity in believing that everything came from nothing. And Stephen Hawking is supposed to be a respected scientist. Wow. Yet recognize that in your argument you would still be admitting that there is a God in the process, and that would be all I would ask of you, Mr. Hawking. And nothing seems to be quite smart if you ask me. Look at the design of the universe. Look at Earth. Look at us. We think, therefore we are. But how arrogant to think that we exist because nothing, just by chance, decided to create us. Stephen Hawking, maybe what you have done in the past to nullify the truth about God has put you in a wheelchair. No, I'm not saying God put you in a wheelchair, because in the Bible it says somewhere that God doesn't do that kind of evil. I'm saying that your thinking may have put you there, because when you adamantly and intentionally separate yourself from God, you can be left to fend for yourself. Neurons in your brain no longer have anything rational to sustain them. Your spirit can be completely weakened because of unbelief, and you can become totally flesh and blood. You no longer have a conscience. Maybe you thought yourself out of a God, and were left with what you are. I'm not being cruel, guys. It is possible to ruin yourself when you are gambling with the being that sustains your life. In the Bible, many people witnessed punishment for less. It's like unplugging from your source, if you know what I mean. Without the things from God, such as conscience, hope, love, faith, etc., the body soon deteriorates, and eventually dies. Remember Christopher Reeves? He lost all hope and died a lot faster than he should have. He never accepted his fate. He wanted death over being confined to a chair. And he got it. Superman died a disgruntled person. Is that you, Stephen Hawking? We are the only animals with free will and a spirit self, but when we totally dampen our spirit we become just like any other animal. A totally carnal mind will destroy the body that's attached to it, because it has no limiter. So I'm saying that maybe that's what happened to you. Now, I'm not a Stephen Hawking hater, but I don't want him to shatter the world's hope just because he has lost hope. Some non-believers have been waiting for a very prominent and smart person to confirm their notion that there is no need for a God to exist, and that something else may be responsible for the universe. But God does exist, and he did create this universe. Yet also understand that God does not live in this universe. His spirit dwells in us as in other beings, but heaven is not in this universe. His throne is not on a planet out there somewhere. Understand that this universe is not all that exists. It's just all that we as humans can see. Remember my fish scenario from earlier. And before you can enjoy the benefits of God and Jesus Christ, you first have to surrender and accept that they exist. When you do, then go to a quiet place and meditate and acknowledge that you want to believe and know God better. In other words, go pray. God is faithful enough to respond. But know that he is not a toy. Don't tempt God in your prayers. Surrender and ask for the help you need in this life. If you are willing to believe that he hears you, you will be able to hear or feel his response. Remember the earlier fish scenario. God trying to talk to you in your unbelief is just like you trying to talk to a fish in the ocean. You can't know God by testing, tempting, or trying to trick him into revealing himself. Once you have finally connected with our God, then you need to find scriptures to reinforce what you now believe. I find that Proverbs in the Bible is a good start, because it is about a man telling his son the best ways to live on this earth as a human who believes in God. It's better to first learn some of the right ways to live according to God before you get into all the church or denominational stuff. Religion itself can destroy your faith if you are not careful. And only let the words of God judge you. Look at the 10 Commandments for starters. Remember, everyone, God is God, and religion is religion. Most times they are not one and the same thing. Don't let people destroy your faith in God, because you will reap the consequences of your mistakes. There is a heaven and a hell, maybe not like some religions depict, but they do exist. We will be held accountable, and our weak excuses for not believing won't be accepted. You can see in nature that there is a God, and nature shows no favoritism and will act how and where it pleases, and so will God. Money can't buy God's judgment. Don't be misled by the fake Jews, false Christians, deceptive Muslims, or any other group that misleads us about God. This life is about you and God. You must live and die and face God. No one else will be responsible for you. Be careful to not be fooled by the world, or people like Stephen Hawkin. Remember, that man is hurting inside and his heart is probably hardened. But he doesn't see that his ailment can be a blessing if he turns his faith around. He is in a great position to avoid sins that an ordinary man might commit, if you know what I mean. So right now the only sin he is committing is to teach other people to be faithless and unbelieving. I hope this video draws you closer to God or prevents you from walking away from God. Don't ever be frustrated with God, be frustrated with you, or with the evil in the world. God doesn't have to answer to us because he has the power to make the world forget this existence ever was. In fact, that's what he said at the end of the Bible in Revelations 21. Please go read it and you'll see what is to happen eventually. And finally, know that there is a big air war going on around us that humans can't see. There is a battle between spirits and principalities. It's like when a parent tells a child, stay out of grown folks' business. The war between good and evil is, heavenly, grown folks' business. When it's all over, we will reap the benefits for just believing and siding with God. Yeah, Satan and God have a real battle, and it is not ours. Yet we are what the battle is about. I will get into that at another time. As usual, my words are my words, and I hold the right to my words. Don't worry about searching my profile for insight, just hear what I have to say and govern yourself accordingly. Hopefully you will do it with the help of the Lord. And of course I am not the person you hear speaking. Who knows who I am at this point? Does it matter? Until next time, Mr. Exposer of your lies.